It seems like everywhere you turn these days, there's all this buzz about AI code generators.
Yeah.
Especially tools like GitHub Copilot and Cursor.ai. It's like they've jumped into the ring, and it's a total free-for-all. They're practically everywhere.
Yeah.
Promising to change the world of coding as we know it.
Right.
But in this deep dive, we're going to try and cut through the noise and see what's really going on here.
Okay.
You know, you might be prepping for a meeting or just trying to keep up with this fast-moving field.
For sure.
Either way, we've got you covered.
Absolutely.
So it's pretty interesting that this whole explosion of AI code generators comes right on the heels of our conversation about the potential pitfalls of rushing software development.
Absolutely.
You know, remember all that stuff we talked about with the Boeing 737 MX issues?
Yeah, that's a great point.
Mikhail Bersoni brings this up in his latest LinkedIn article.
He does.
And it's definitely something to think about. You know, could these AI tools lead us down a similar path?
Yeah, potentially. I mean, it's definitely a concern.
Yeah. It's a little bit of a sobering thought for sure.
Right.
So are we like right on the edge of another disaster?
Yeah.
Or can we use these tools responsibly?
That's the question.
That's the million-dollar question.
Right.
Well, Bersoni argues that there's this really crucial distinction between developers and software engineers.
Yeah.
That's often overlooked, especially these days when it seems like every company is trying to cut costs and just go fast.
Yeah, speed is everything.
Yeah.
You know, just get it out there.
Right, right.
But, you know, that's where I think Bersoni makes a really good point. You know, he's talking about the discipline that's missing when people just focus on churning out code as quickly as possible.
Right.
Real software engineering, he says, you know, it involves rigorous testing, writing clean, maintainable code, and, you know what, communicating effectively with your team.
Yeah, all that's fun.
All that stuff.
He even goes so far as to say that companies are fully aware that developers often lack this discipline.
Wow.
And that's a big reason why they get paid less.
Really?
It's a bold statement.
Yeah.
But it really makes you think about, you know, what are we truly prioritizing when we're building software?
Are we cutting corners?
Right, exactly.
You know, to save a buck.
And that's really where I think these AI code generators kind of come into the equation.
They do.
Bersoni sees them as potential, like, co-pilots, not replacements for skilled engineers.
Okay.
But can AI really be a reliable partner when you're building complex systems?
That's a great question.
You know, to answer that, I think we have to look beyond all the hype.
The marketing hype.
All the marketing stuff. And that's where Carl Brown's experiment comes in.
Oh, okay. Carl Brown.
You might know him from his YouTube channel, Internet of Bugs.
I've heard of it.
He's got this great, very comedic, you know, approach to kind of exposing code flaws. He decided to put these AI code generators to the test.
Oh, nice.
And his findings were actually pretty shocking.
Oh, wow. Okay. I'm interested.
So the experiment itself was actually really simple, but very effective.
Oh, yeah.
It was to build an HTTP server based on a codecrafters.io kata.
Okay.
Each of the AI tools was given the exact same problem and the same test to make sure it was a completely level playing field.
Makes sense.
So it's like this coding showdown where all these AI are like battling it out to win the title of best code generator.
Okay.
I'm dying to know the results.
I bet you are.
Lay it on me. Who came out on top?
Well, technically, Cursor.ai was the winner.
Okay.
But there's a pretty significant caveat.
Okay, a caveat. All right, this is where it starts to get good.
Yeah, this is where it gets interesting.
What did he find?
Well, get ready for this. Every single piece of code generated by the AI, including Cursor.ai's winning solution, completely lacked proper tests.
No.
0 test coverage.
You're kidding me, right? No tests at all.
Across the board.
So you're telling me that this is like building a bridge and not even bothering to check if it can hold any weight?
Pretty much.
How can anyone call that a win?
Right. It's a good question.
And you said this wasn't even some like super obscure, crazy complex problem.
Yeah, not at all.
An HTTP server.
Right.
I mean, that's like a fundamental building block.
It is. It's like the bread and butter of the web.
Of the web, exactly. I mean, if AI can't even get that right, it really makes you question its ability to handle anything more complicated.
Yeah, what happens when you get into the really nitty-gritty stuff?
Right.
That's a scary thought.
This really makes Bersoni's point about software engineering discipline even more critical.
It does.
It's not just about speed. It's about building systems that are reliable and maintainable.
Exactly.
And that requires, you know, that rigor that it seems like these AI tools are just totally glossing over.
Yeah, they're just not there yet.
And to really illustrate this point, Bressoni even includes a snippet of the code from cursor.ai in his article.
Oh, wow.
At first glance, you look at it and you're like, oh, wow, this is impressive.
Right, that's pretty good.
But then you dig a little deeper and you realize there's no safety net at all.
Oh, no.
There's no way to guarantee that this code's actually going to do what it's supposed to do.
Yikes.
It's kind of like a ticking time bomb.
Yeah.
So let's talk about some real world implications here.
Okay.
What happens when this kind of untested AI generated code starts making its way into production systems?
Oh, that's a good question.
I mean, what are we really looking at here?
Well, I guess picture this, right?
Okay.
You inherit this massive code base.
Okay.
And it was built entirely with this AI-generated code.
Okay.
No tests, no documentation.
Oh, God.
Just a tangled mess of instructions.
No.
How would you even begin to understand it?
Really?
Let alone maintain it or debug it.
I'm getting a headache just thinking about it. Right.
That sounds like a nightmare.
It's a developer's worst nightmare.
It really does.
So
it brings us back to that whole Boeing analogy.
It does, full circle.
We've seen firsthand what can happen when shortcuts are taken in software development.
Yeah.
The consequences can be catastrophic.
Absolutely.
So the question is, are AI code generators just another shortcut? Or can we actually use them responsibly?
That is the question.
To figure that out.
Yeah.
I think we need to dive a little bit deeper into the potential risks and benefits here.
Absolutely.
So let's kind of unpack that a bit.
Okay.
What are we really risking by using AI-generated code?
Good question.
And how can we actually take steps to mitigate those risks?
Right. We've got to find a way.
What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think the biggest risk with AI-generated code is that it often creates this mountain of technical debt, code that hasn't been properly tested.
Right.
It's really unpredictable.
It can crash, it can malfunction, and cause all sorts of headaches down the line.
Right.
It's almost like you're building a house.
Yeah.
But the foundation is made of sand.
Oh, okay.
It might look fine at first.
Right.
But it's just a matter of time before the cracks start to show and the whole thing comes crumbling down.
Right. So you're basically saying that, are we saying that AI code generators are all hype?
Well, not necessarily.
Okay.
I mean, they're not completely useless.
Okay.
They do have some value
for
certain tasks.
Like what?
Well, for example,
they
can be helpful for generating boilerplate code.
Right.
Things that are repetitive.
Right. Right. Yeah.
Automating those sorts of tasks, or even providing quick fixes for simple problems.
So it's kind of like, it's almost like a really advanced code snippet library.
Yeah, I like that.
It's useful for speeding up certain parts of the development process.
Exactly.
But it's not a replacement for actual engineering thinking.
You still need that human element.
Right. You can't just hit a button and have it.
Right. It's not a magic bullet.
Spit out a perfect application.
Exactly.
That's a good analogy.
I think so too.
So I guess what we're really talking about here is how we as developers approach these tools.
Right.
Because it's tempting, right?
It is. It is.
You see it and you're like, oh, this is going to be the magic bullet.
Yeah. I can code so much faster.
I can write code faster with less effort.
Yeah.
But as we've seen, that can really backfire.
It can, yeah.
So it seems like the big takeaway here is to treat these AI code generators as tools.
Exactly.
Not replacements.
Right. They're there to assist you.
They're there to help you.
Not to replace you.
But they're not going to do the thinking for you.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. Use them strategically for what they're good at.
Right. Play to their strengths.
But never rely on them to do the heavy lifting, like designing, testing, debugging. These complex systems
still need that human oversight.
Human oversight and that expertise are still absolutely crucial.
They are.
We need engineers who can understand the problem.
Yes.
Design a solution that's actually robust.
Right.
Write thorough tests.
All the good stuff.
And make sure that the code is going to be maintainable and scalable in the long run.
That's key.
And this kind of brings us to a really interesting point.
Okay.
That was raised by one of the comments on Bressoni's article.
Oh, okay.
A commenter named Matthew Skelton.
Okay, Matthew Skelton.
Wrote, to paraphrase Michael Feathers, legacy code is code without tests.
Right.
So AI code generation basically gives you instant legacy code.
Wow.
That's kind of a stark assessment, right?
Yeah, that's pretty heavy.
We're not just talking about bad code.
Right.
We're talking about code that is instantly outdated.
Yeah.
It's burdened with technical debt.
Right from the get-go.
Right from the moment it's created.
Wow.
It's like someone handing you a vintage car that looks beautiful on the outside.
Yeah.
But the engine is totally rusted out.
Yikes.
It's a pretty sobering thought.
It is.
It raises an even bigger question.
Which is?
What happens when this instant legacy code starts spreading?
Oh, man.
Across industries, critical systems, what are the consequences if we allow this AI-generated code to be deployed recklessly?
Without any checks and balances.
Without testing, oversight.
It's a scary thought.
It's a chilling thought.
It is.
We've seen with Boeing that cutting corners can have some pretty catastrophic consequences.
Yeah, for sure.
So while these AI code generators do hold some promise, we need to be incredibly cautious about how we use them.
I agree.
So where do we go from here?
Right.
It feels like we're kind of at a crossroads.
Yeah, we're at a turning point.
Software development.
It feels that way.
On the one hand, we've got these super powerful AI tools that promise to change everything.
Revolutionize the industry.
But on the other hand, we've got the very real dangers of untested, unreliable code being deployed into these mission-critical systems.
Absolutely. It's a delicate balance.
It is a delicate balance.
It is.
I think it's really important to remember that technology is kind of a double-edged sword.
It is, for sure.
AI code generators can be super useful, but they can also be really dangerous.
Right, if they're in the wrong hands.
If they're used improperly.
Or used for the wrong purposes.
Right. Yeah. So it really comes down to us as humans making the right choices.
Absolutely.
And this leads into Bressoni's final point in his article.
Okay, what's that?
He's actually hinting at his next episode.
Cool.
Where he's going to be talking about how developers can evolve into true software engineers.
Oh, interesting.
And I think that's really the key here to kind of navigating this new landscape. It's about elevating the skills and practices of software engineering.
So we're not just churning out code.
So that we can use these incredibly powerful tools responsibly and safely.
I agree with that.
So it seems like we really need a new mindset.
I think so.
You know, moving away from just like churning out code as fast as we can to thinking more about the long-term implications.
Right. The bigger picture of what we're building. It's exactly building it, right?
Exactly.
It's about quality.
So we need like a whole new generation of developers who can not only understand how to use these AI tools, but also have that critical thinking.
Yeah, that engineering mindset.
And that engineering discipline to really use them responsibly.
Because you can have all the tools in the world.
Exactly.
But if you don't know how to use them properly, it's not going to do you any good.
So how do we find that right balance?
That's the million-dollar question.
How do we leverage the speed and the efficiency of AI
while still maintaining the quality and integrity,
the core principles
of true software engineering?
Absolutely.
Well, it seems like a big part of it is a commitment to things like clear testing.
Right.
You know, writing clean code.
Absolutely.
Documentation.
Yeah, all that stuff we talk about all the time.
Right. I mean, it sounds boring.
I know, it's not the sexy part.
It's not the exciting part.
Right.
But it is super essential.
It's the foundation if you want to build software that's gonna last.
It's the difference between a house that stands for 100 years and one that falls apart in a couple of years.
This also brings up another really important point.
What's that?
Education and training.
Absolutely. We got to train these new developers.
We need to give developers the skills and the knowledge they need to navigate this new world.
This AI-powered world.
With AI-assisted coding.
Right, because it's not going away.
It's not going away.
AI is here to stay.
We can't just pretend it's not happening.
We have to embrace it.
And it's not enough to just teach people how to use the tools.
Right.
We need to teach them how to think like engineers.
The fundamentals.
So that they can understand when and how to use AI effectively.
Absolutely.
And maybe even more importantly, when not to use it.
When to say no.
So to kind of wrap things up here, AI code generators are here.
They are.
They're not going anywhere.
They're part of the landscape now.
And they definitely have the potential.
The potential is huge.
To be incredibly valuable.
Yeah.
But the question is.
Are
we going to use them wisely?
Are we up to the challenge?
Are we going to prioritize quality over speed?
Right. Are we going to choose the long term over the short term gains?
Those are the really big questions.
They are the big questions.
That we all need to be thinking about right now.
And not just developers.
Not just developers.
companies, policymakers, everybody's got a stake in this.
Because ultimately, it's about the future of software.
It really is.
And it's about the safety and reliability of the system.
There's systems we rely on.
That we all rely on.
Every single day.
So for those of you listening out there, this is something you need to be thinking about.
Take it seriously.
Think about how you're going to use these tools effectively.
Right, and responsibly.
In your own work.
In your own projects.
Then what steps you can take.
Yeah, what can you do?
To make sure the code you're creating is safe.
Right.
And reliable.
And it's going to last.
It a long haul.
Not just a quick fix that's going to break tomorrow.
And remember, stay tuned for Michel Bersoni's next episode.
I will.
Where he's going to be talking about that path from developer blue to a true software engineer.
Can't wait to hear that.
Until then, keep coding.
Happy coding, everyone.
Thanks for listening, and please remember to subscribe to the Forge of Unicorns to stay up to date with our latest episodes.